Okay, so on this podcast, I want to cover very quickly communication rhythm with VAs. So we're working in a remote world right now. So one of the things that I've been a big proponent of now for over a decade is recruitment search business owners and even indeed search business desk owners having a virtual assistant. Why? So for example, if you've got somebody, let's say 3 activities you may or may not do. Number 1, you may be doing some data set building, number 1. Number 2, you may be doing social media. Number 3, you may be building materials for to attain clients or to attain candidates. So we personally use something called the client attainment system that starts off as a PDF, then becomes a video, then becomes a webinar. So creating these slides, etc. You should be doing this. If you're on 100K a year, that's your outcome, that means you're on £50 an hour. If you're on $1 million a year, it's £500 per hour, 8 hours a day anyway. So if you're doing that and your VA costs $4 an hour, we're not thinking like a business owner. So you should all have VAs. So just one small part of a VA. I'm not going to go to anything else apart from this. Communication rhythm. So the right VA will change your business. The wrong VA will destroy your business. We had a gentleman 5 years ago. In fact, Aurora was just born 5 years ago. And this gentleman was part of one of my programs, and this person decided to take some of my materials at the time and then put them online and then sell them as his own. That's enough to make me mad anyway, ethics. However, one of the things that really pissed me off was the following. One of the things that he was pushing was, get a VA, it will solve everything. No, if you get a VA and your communication rhythm is not right, getting a VA will be a quicker route to failure. If you get a VA and they're taking a very discrete task and get a very discrete action taken each day and a very discrete metric achieved each day, it can be the best thing to ever happen in your business. So communication rhythm. So I'm going to assume you've got a VA. I'm going to assume you've done the right assessment of the VA. I'm going to assume that you've identified a set of tasks for your VA. You've got daily tasks, weekly tasks, monthly tasks, quarterly tasks for your VA, okay? Now your VAs are not superhuman. So if you think your VA is going to write the copy for your website, build your website, write emails, set up your autoresponder, manage your LinkedIn, create images, you're in a world that is full of shit, and there's a lot of that online. A VA should be doing 1 or 2 tasks repeatedly every single day. So as an example, let's say that every single day they are they're creating social media posts, they are building lists of 500 candidates per day, they are they're editing your podcast every day. That's 3 tasks. Okay, they do it every single day. So your VA should have a set of distinct tasks to do every single day over and over again, not do dozens of things, okay? So if you've got one VA, you've got to ask yourself the question, what's the primary task? What's the number 1 thing that should be doing? Is it LinkedIn related? Is it database related? What's the number 1 thing they should be doing? Focus on that first. So communication rhythm. So the success of your VA will come down to, first of all, you understanding your VA should be doing a very discrete task, not many tasks. A very discrete task, number 1. Number 2, your VA, if they're doing the same task every day, a boring task every single day, and you're thinking, why on earth would they do this task? When I started working with VAs a decade ago, the VAs at that point were earning about $250 per month, and at that time it was the same as an accountant. Okay, it's the same as an accountant. So of course times are a little bit different now, and some VAs paid a lot more. But first of all, don't think because you're paying the VA a lot less money you would do in the UK, USA, Europe, Canada, wherever you may be, that they're not going to be excited. They actually are excited by what they're doing, number 1. Number 2, hours. VAs, I've always been a massive proponent of they work to your business hours. That's the second thing. Third proponent, when you get VA teams built, you will have a project manager, but essentially it will be a VA who will then manage the other 3 VAs, and your communication will be largely with that number 1 VA, the project manager. So you get into this cycle. So communication rhythm. Communication rhythm really means the following. It means you take your business seriously. I messed up more with VAs than anyone else. I was the biggest tosser in the world. In 1 year, I went through 50 VAs in 1 year. And do you know what? I blamed every single failure on them, not me. Every single one. As my dad says, you point one finger, how many point back? And that was about a decade ago. And again, I went through 50 VAs in a year. What sort of arsehole was I? I made every mistake you can imagine. Now, I've got VAs been with me for years and years and years. I've learned so many lessons. So how do you get into a way that your VA performs very well? You don't get frustrated, so you want to throw the laptop out the window. How do you do that? Well, number one is you isolate the exact task you need to do. Number two, you create a metric they need to achieve every hour. Then if they're working for you 8 hours, you times it by 8. Very simple. Number three, how do you get into an actual rhythm of actually communicating on how the day's going? So very simply, what that means is the following. We had a gentleman called Peter. Peter 5x his business in the first 6 months of being with us. So it wasn't like a go to $1 million, but memory serves, it was something like they did 60K in 6 months, then 120K the next 6 months, and then the next year went on to do fabulous numbers. So how did they do that rapid working? And he worked with his partner, and Peter worked 1.5 hours a day on the business, and his partner worked all day on the business, okay? And what Peter did, he managed the VAs. So what he did was the following. Each morning, he'd have a meeting with the VA or VAs. And it was, right, your job today is a LinkedIn task where we expect the following, bam. Then he'd check in 4 hours later. That would take 30 minutes. So we have a morning meeting, setting the plan for the day, 15 minutes. Lunchtime, 30 minutes. End of day, another 15 minutes. Then 30 minutes of his time will be creating the task for the next day, checking templates, tweaking templates. So if we're doing a one-to-many strategy, so we're sending out strategy like a template or a follow-up process to 500, 5,000 clients, candidates. If you get the message wrong, there's always only two things. Everything you do within your business, if you're using digital, comes to two things: message and mechanism. So the mechanism might be LinkedIn. You got the message, what you send. The mechanism might be a webinar. The message is what you actually say. So what he'd do is he'd focus on the message. So this particular campaign, we've got 75% acceptance rate. How do we increase it? Peter actually got 100% response rate. Now that sounds like bullshit, absolute bullshit, and I get it. Andy, you're full of shit. Absolutely cool for you saying that. But inside my inner circle, under model success, hot seats, module I think 33, we go through that. So that means if you send out 100 messages on LinkedIn, you got 100 responses. Now, did he do it on week one? No. It actually took 9 weeks to get there. So, and the reason why I know it's 9 weeks, because it took me 8 weeks to get my first webinar converting over a decade ago. So it took him 9 weeks. But what it meant was each morning, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 15 minutes, then update the templates, then set the task for tomorrow. His VA's working 8 hours, 2 VA's working 16 hours, 3 VA's working 24 hours. So that 1.5 hours he's taking each day is actually got a 20x ratio. So your communication rhythm with your VAs needs to be systematic. Now, you're an entrepreneur like me, which means you're probably erratic, you're full of ideas, you never stop thinking, you can't sleep, you're either really happy, you're really worried, you're fun, but also you can be a complete fucking nightmare. You're an entrepreneur. And, you know, and kudos to the entrepreneurs, you know, it's the fucking hardest thing in the world. But what that means is you've got to think about what you're hiring here. So I bought a lot of property about 12 years ago, lost everything. I had property in the Caribbean, everything, in 2008. And broke my heart. Actually, I had a property in St. Vincent, the Grenadines, where Liverpool Football Club, which is my team, had a training academy on site. Never seen it. I lost everything. Broke my heart. However, as part of that process, I met a number of really, really cool guys on the way. And one of them was a guy called Rob Moore. And one of the things Rob said, and Rob Moore deals with property, and one of the things Rob said was the following. When you're an entrepreneur and you're, at that point I was working in the corporate world. I came out of the corporate world. I spent a year trying to mentoring kids, but I couldn't monetize that. Then I started doing what I was doing, what I'm good at, which is this stuff. Started my own business, and I learned the hard way. And I remember going to a property event, and Rob Moore said the following. He said, right, if you're an entrepreneur, you're built this way. You're a bit more like to do ABC, less like to do X, Y, Z. So if you're this person, you need to have the polar opposite inside your business. So that means if you've got a VA and the VA is going to take a lead from you, how you act with that VA in that first day, week, month is what they think the bar is. So if you start with that relationship and it's erratic and it's not systematic and you don't turn up on time, they're going to take a lead from that. And it's not going to work, even with the best VA in the world. So be aware, how you start that process is how it actually flows. It's like with a child. How you discipline that child from day one is the bar. You can't be with a child 10 times and have your kid running around the house and then suddenly daddy shouts because you've got to put your hand on the fire. You've got to be consistent from the word go. So you're probably the problem here. I know, because I'm the problem. And I've met hundreds of members over the years, thousands in different programs over the years, and you're probably the problem. So you need to recognize how you start that relationship is key, number one. Number two, how you communicate with that VA is key. So if you get the right VA, it will change your life. I've got a VA right now, for example, who's been with me for years, and she's like my little sister. And she knows how I think. She knows the business. You know, if I lose her, it's not cool. And I care about her. You know, she had tough times, and I promise her, your job's safe. I'm here for you, and follow through. If you get the right VA, it's game changing for you, but also for them. You want to keep that relationship. So with your VA, when you communicate, and it's tough, you're a recruiter, you're in a very stressful world. Right now, what's going on with the economy and all the stresses you got with money and family and relationships and lockdowns, etc. You're in a very stressful place. But know this, if you speak to your VA for 30 minutes a day, 60 minutes a day at max, all they're going to take is how you speak to them in that way. So how you communicate in that time is really important. I'm very, very direct with my communication. I use WhatsApp an awful lot of the time, and I can leave messages that probably sound really terse to someone who doesn't know me. And sometimes you need to take a step back and go, right, I need to reset here. I'm a Westerner dealing with someone who's not a Western person, who I've not even met yet, probably in your case. So be aware, when you communicate and you've got someone good, you want to keep that person. You want to keep that person, number two. Number three, assessing their actual performance. Again, communication. When you communicate about that performance, you don't want to make the communication about them. You want to make it about the metric. So say, for example, you've got a metric. Say that you've given permission for them to access your LinkedIn. And the metric is, I want you to connect with 500 CEOs per week. I want an acceptance rate of 50%. And at the end of the week, you've got acceptance rate of 15%. And when you communicate with them, so Jennifer, how come you screwed up? No, Jennifer, the metric we're talking about is 15%. Now, that metric, what's been the actual cause for that metric to actually have that number, do you think? What's made it happen? What's the input here? So you don't make it about them. Now remember, these guys, these girls, they'll have your back more than the Western world. You know, the Philippines, especially, these guys will have your back. They're beautiful people. So when you communicate, always remember this. Do you want them in your business for the future? If you do, you need to respect them. Now you're in recruitment, you're a bit of an arse. I'm a bit of an arse. I can be very aggressive. I can be very erratic. I can be very emotional. We're entrepreneurs. It's bloody tough, especially now. But always, we've got to take a step back and go, right, what's my outcome here? Tony Robbins, every scenario you go into, what's my outcome? The outcome is you want to keep that VA. Never forget that. Over the years, I've had, unfortunately, experience of members of mine and VAs coming to me, people come to me, almost in a state of PTSD about how they've been almost verbally abused. And again, it's Western world and it's their culture. So know this, we're completely different people, but you want them in your life. And I'll tell you this, especially Filipino VAs, they will have your back more than any other people I've ever come across. So communication with them is key. But being consistent with it is key. Now, if you've got that team and you're 5 years down the line, it becomes a completely different model. You've got a project manager who runs the team. If you're starting with a VA though, you need to make sure that you turn up on time. You turn up with an agenda. You turn up with actions. You turn up with metrics. You turn up with some way of assessing. But also make sure you're dealing with someone here who, at the end of the day, they're living potentially in a hut. And that's reality. Before COVID, I'd go down to, I said the C word now, I'd go down to the Philippines up to 3 times a year to take my team out. And when you see how these guys and girls live, it makes you really appreciative of how much they do have you back. So never forget that. So communication rhythm, bringing it back to the main point here. Your VA should have a set of distinct tasks. You are the reason why that VA will work or not work. You have decided to hire them. You have tested them. You dictate when you communicate with them. You dictate how that meeting goes. It's on you. And that's coming from the guy who's fucked up more than you can ever imagine, and I'll make another 1,000 fuck ups before I die. But just a shortcut here, if you take that principle of being systematic from the start, being really clear with roles, trying not to have too many roles from the start, being cool, and knowing if you've got someone good, you treat them like your little sister or your little brother. So with that said, VAs. I could go into this, we've got dozens of modules on this, but I just want to get you some clarity right now and working remotely, because you're probably in a state of stress right now and overwhelm and all the other stuff going on. Deep breath before you speak to them, okay? Now, if you want help with your VAs or help getting a VAs or knowing what tasks VAs normally do, if you go to recruitmentmarketinginternational.com, recruitmentmarketinginternational.com/meet, MEET. If you're going to call with myself, one of my coaches, we'll give you 3 action points you can take away for you and your VA. So with that said, when you got a good one, you keep it. So hang in there, guys. Stay tough. I'll see you soon.